We have Katie giving us the From Redmond with Love.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you very much. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. And how many of you do not work for Microsoft in the audience? Okay, great. We've got a big crowd of Microsofties here. So this is a turbo talk, and so I have 20 minutes, but since you already all know, presumably you all know what I'm here to talk about, I want to make sure that I give you all a chance to ask your most pressing questions. So I'm going to try and keep my part of the turbo talk to about half of the time, and then open up the floor for any questions from you guys. So we're going to talk about a new security research incentive, and not at all what you may or may not have been expecting in this area. So we'll just go through some of the who, what, and why of what we're up to here. We've been cooking this idea for a little while, so it's really exciting for me to be able to bring it to you guys here. We're going to talk a little bit about researcher motivations, because a lot of incentive programs, sort of go after one motivation over another, and we'll talk about some of the different motivations that we've uncovered when we've looked at the researcher community, and specifically the researcher community who report vulnerabilities to Microsoft. We'll talk about the vulnerability economy, and you, and us. And then question marks, but you already know what this is. How many people have already heard the news? Oh, actually, this will be a surprise to some of you. Exciting. Okay. We'll talk about ways to profit and our ongoing love for the researcher community. So who am I? I joined Microsoft. It'll be 5 years in April. I run Microsoft Security Community Outreach and Strategy. That also includes Microsoft Vulnerability Research and the BlackHat Hacker Conference that we have in Redmond once a year to invite security researchers to talk to and educate Microsoft engineers and executives on current threats. I've done security work from a number of different angles in my career. Way back in the day, I used to be a Linux developer. It's okay, Uncle Steve understands. It's fine. And I've also been a pen tester. I was a penetration tester for about 7 years before joining Microsoft. I founded Semantic Vulnerability Research, where we look for vulnerabilities in third-party products there, and published advisories. And then again here at Microsoft, Microsoft Vulnerability Research, where we just started publishing vulnerability or advisories on third-party products just this past April for vulnerabilities that our engineers have discovered in other people's products, and worked through coordinated vulnerability disclosure to get fixed. I've also been had this labor of love, let's just call it that, in the world of ISO. So I was brought in to look at developing ISO standard on vulnerability disclosure, and I serve as the U.S. national body's subject matter expert on this. And then last October, I was elected the editor of a brand new ISO standard that's working on vulnerability handling. But that's not what we're here to talk about. So why are you missing somebody else's talk? This is actually a pretty good fill for the slot right after lunch, so I'm kind of pleased here. So maybe you thought you might win an Xbox, I don't know, but you know what, you can go to the booth for a chance to win that. You heard we were hiring? We are. Careers at Microsoft, careers.microsoft.com. You had no idea what the word security strategist meant. We'll get to that later. And that maybe you heard a rumor, or you had a thought that maybe we were finally going to announce some kind of something around bounties. Well, we're going to get to that. So first, let's talk about you and your motivation. So one of the things that we looked at when we were evaluating different incentive programs were the motivations of the security research community. What we found, I sort of bucket them into three general categories. A lot of researchers are motivated by compensation. Obviously, that includes monetary compensation. A lot are motivated by recognition. And whether that's public recognition in a broad sense or recognition among their peers, people who they find important to be recognized by, we can bucket it there. And then the last category that I call the pursuit of intellectual happiness, which essentially is a lot of these things are really hard problems, and it's fun to work on, it's fun to go deep and work on a clever way, usually to exploit vulnerabilities or to find vulnerabilities. And that's an intellectual challenge that, that a lot of researchers are actually very motivated by. So how does this play into the current vulnerability economy? These numbers actually have been talked about, and at least the white market numbers, are publicly verifiable. The gray and the black market, we all kind of throw around the same numbers that we've heard through shadowy sources of the price ranges, but one thing remains the same. One thing we can all agree on is that the white market doesn't try to compete with the other markets. By white market, we talk about, there are vendor bug bounties that are in that category, and there's also vulnerability brokers who share the vulnerability details with the vendors to allow them to get fixed. So the white market, that information, the vulnerability information, is primarily used for defensive purposes. The gray and the black market, there's a little bit of offensive purposes in there as well. And one thing that is also very, very clear from these pricing models is that the price increases depending on the intended use of the vulnerability. So with that in mind, how does this actually apply to researchers who find and report or disclose in some other manner or use in some other manner Microsoft vulnerabilities? Because this is what we were looking at when we were trying to figure out what the best way was to engage with the security researcher community around incentives. So in general, researchers have many other motivations besides money. Obviously, a lot of people in this room have the capability. How many people on a pen test figured out a way to mint money on the back end of some financial system? All right, there's a few of you, and some of you aren't admitting it. But the point is, if money were all that this community wanted, there are plenty of ill-gotten ways that money could be had. But a lot of researchers make very different choices with the outcome of their vulnerability research. And then something else that was very, very interesting to us. So this past year, 80% of the vulnerabilities that were disclosed in Microsoft products were actually privately disclosed to us through coordinated vulnerability disclosure. So that means that people gave us a chance to test an update before they released vulnerability details. Of that 80% who were already coming to us or coming privately through a vulnerability broker, over 90% of those people actually choose to come to us directly, even though there is a white market available to them should they choose to be compensated that way. So I'll give you a second to marinate with that thought. So what does that actually tell us in terms of the best way to engage with the researcher community in terms of incentives? Well, over 90% of the researchers who want to work with us, they already have a means by which to be paid per vulnerability via the white market that's been in existence for several years. But the majority of them just choose to come to us anyway. So we respect the researchers' right to earn a living for their work. We hire pen testing companies. We hire researchers, to help us secure our products. But ultimately, if a researcher chooses not to, come on board full time or not to work with us through a penetration testing engagement with their company, we just hope that if they do sell vulnerabilities, that they choose the white market to help us protect customers. So this is what we were announcing today. So those of you who might not know this already, we've announced a brand new incentive program, and it's called the BlackHat Prize. So it offers over $250,000 in cash and prizes for research in security defense. And the first question that we've posed to the researcher community is to design a novel runtime mitigation technology that's capable of preventing the exploitation of memory safety vulnerabilities. So we're not talking about cross-site scripting here. We're talking about stack-based overflows, heap overflows, that kind of thing. So the entry period is open as of now, and it goes until April 1st, 2012, and we're going to announce the winners at next year's BlackHat. Something else I want to point out here is that we really do believe in the power of this community to help, as we call it, secure the planet. It's the other side of the security coin, right? But the intellectual property that is submitted as entries to this contest remains the property of the inventor. So by entering the contest, they're granting us a license to use the technology. However, if they choose, they can actually license it for other uses on other platforms. So we're really in this for not only helping to protect the Microsoft ecosystem, but also the rest of the computing ecosystem as a whole. So, what do they win? Top prize gets $200,000. Second, $50,000. Third prize, MSDN subscription worth about $10,000. So it's kind of funny that I led into all of this saying that, you know, the researcher community is motivated by a lot more than money. And this is true. And yet here I am offering a giant prize. Well, the difference is we're offering this prize in the area of security defense. This is the first time that any vendor or anyone in our industry has offered such a huge incentive award for security defensive research. The vulnerability economy up until this point has been focused on attacks, offense, exploitation, and in the game of cat and mouse between security attacker and defender, we would like to actually encourage more thought on the defense side from this community. And it is from this community of attackers that we get some of the best defenders. Okay, so examples of mitigation technology that we've incorporated into our platform. DEP, data execution prevention, ASLR, and mitigation tools from Microsoft that we have released, such as the Emmet Toolkit. How many of you have heard of Emmet? Okay, great. Well, go download it, and you probably want to be running it right now. And this guy right here is the one who wrote it, so if you want to talk to him about it, yeah, now I got him. I know, you're welcome. Okay, so, sorry, how much time do I have left? Okay, perfect. All right, so I'm about halfway through. We just have a couple more slides, and I'm going to open up the floor for questions. The judging criteria. We have a panel of expert judges within Microsoft who work on our own platform mitigations, and they will be judging this competition. The judgment criteria, and you can actually see this on the BlackHat Prize website, is going to be based on how practical the solution is, as in, you know, can it be implemented on a broad scale on the Windows platform? Is the overhead low enough? How robust the solution is? How easy would it be to bypass that proposed solution? And then the impact that it's going to have. So does the solution actually strongly address some of these open problems? So have you guys heard of return-oriented programming? Anyone? Okay, all right, yeah, I know, you have. So things like that, if there's a better way than what is in our current arsenal to mitigate exploitation techniques like that, like JIT spray, like return-oriented programming, that's the kind of thing that we're interested in for this competition. So, how's the world different now? Well, there's still many different motivations for doing security research. There are many different ways that, you know, we can work with the security community, but now we've got another tool in the Defender's arsenal, which is the BlackHat Prize. And obviously there's a big compensation component here. It's also going to, you know, this person or these people who win this prize are going to be famous. And quite frankly, they're going to be solving some of the toughest security problems that we have. So in terms of security, hard problems, an intellectual challenge, this is absolutely the stuff that the mitigation solution is designed to enhance. So in conclusion, to give you guys a chance to ask me some questions, we do value the security community and their work. We are looking at this as a talent spotting competition. We would love to be able to hire, you know, some of the brightest minds in security. We've got tons of them already working for us and working on the next generation of defenses and platform mitigations already. Some of the best defenders do come from the offense side. And also, by the way, I'm hiring. So this is what a security strategist at Microsoft does. Hopefully I've answered your question there. And now I'd like to open up the floor to your questions.
Platform, x86, ARM, both, either?
It's basically anywhere where Windows runs. So the question was what platform exactly? And it was, the answer is the Microsoft platform. So anywhere where we run. Now that's to enter the contest. Now obviously, again, like I said, the IP is retained by the inventor. If they want to port it to another platform, great. It's their solution. Go ahead.
Slightly off the contest goal itself, but Why hasn't Microsoft implemented a strong reference mod yet similar to the BlackHat model that was presented in the 80s and was even implemented and proven in the trusted Linux operating system demo? It deals with all memory referencing quite well, which looks like it solved all your problems there at least.
While it may solve some problems, a lot of applications that run on our platform might not be so used to it. So we would have a significant, probably a significant usability issue or app compat issue with making a change like that. Do I see any other questions? Okay, well I think I've hit my 20 minutes.
Thank you very much, Katie.
Thank you.
That's awesome news.